Hi, my name is Rick, and I'm going to try to show you how to install a flat panel TV above a fireplace where there's no electric or cable, HDMI cables or any of that that'll run to it. What we have here is a 47-inch LCD TV. Now I'm going ahead and I've already mounted the rack, but I'll show you what I did. This is called a full motion rack, wall mount. What this does is it pulls in and out from the wall, and it also rotates from side to side if you want to be able to maybe watch it in the kitchen or in another room a little bit, or if you're at home by yourself you could probably adjust it to where you're sitting. This mount is a swivel ball bearing, and I've lagged it with lag bolts right into the studs. You see those two bolts right there. Now what happens is you got to use your stud finder. Just go grab one from one of your stores, your local improvement stores. You hold it in, and what will happen is it has an arrow. It'll tell you where your studs are. Usually around the right area. And then what I did was I took like a screwdriver and I poked a hole in where the stud finder said it was, and then I went out a series of holes until I found the edge of the stud. And then I measured back into the center of the stud, and I made a mark, and that's where I put my lags. Now these are usually your studs are about 16 inches on center, and that worked out pretty good. It's off a little bit, but with this type of mount being full motion, I can go from right to left and slide it back and forth. Now we're moving on to the electric portion. I've already found out where my studs are, and I've already laid them out. I laid out here where the edge of it is, and because of this particular framing for the fireplace, there's actually two studs that are pretty close to each other. They're closer than 16-inch centers. Now I've got to come all the way out here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to run all the way down into the basement, and then I'm going to tie into an electrical outlet down there, because this right here is just a low voltage switch that goes to the fireplace, the gas fireplace, so you're not getting your full voltage to go ahead and power a multiple outlet. So that's where I'm at right now, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do what you call a pumpkin cut. And I'm going to use just a regular saw for drywall saw. And when you do it a pumpkin cut is I'm going to cut this whole section out right here, because I got these two studs. And to be able to get that wire in the wall there, I'm going to have to notch these studs so that I can get my wire in. And I suspect, because this is a firewall, I may have a fire block, or what they call a fire stop, where the stud's actually going this way instead of this way on the vertical. So right now, when you do a pumpkin cut, just like it's called, you're going to put your knife in, or your saw in on an angle, and you're going to saw on an angle like this all the way around. What that does is when you go to put this piece of drywall back in, it'll have something that'll lay up against. It won't just pop right in there, and it's easier to tape and spackle and get that all done. Now when you do a pumpkin cut, you don't cut the top part of this right here. It's going to flip open like a hinge. And I'm going to go ahead and cut that open. And then what I'm going to do after that, I got these things that are called nail plates. And what they do is you put them over the spot where you notch the studs out. That way if anybody in the future decides they want to hang something here, they don't drill right through your cables to put an anchor or something in there. This will stop it from happening there. You should have some flex where the wire isn't up against the stud, and if somebody did try to drill in there, more than likely it'll push the cable back, and you won't damage the cable. So these are you know, a good investment. They're not expensive. I think like 50 cents a piece or something like that, maybe even less than that. They have little tabs, and I'll show you how to put them in a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and do my pumpkin cut, because I'm the only one being able to film this, and I'll be back. Okay, so now that I've done my pumpkin cut, by not going across the top of here, it keeps that patch in place there. Now what you might have to do is hold up on this a little bit and hold pressure on there, and it's going to snap the drywall right there. It acts like a hinge. So what I'll do is I'll tape that up, and now you see the double studs in there that I was talking about. The stud finder found them, and I had a general idea where I wanted to be, so I'm going to have to notch those studs to go ahead and get my wire through there. So I'm going to go ahead and put some painter's tape on this flap and hold it up, and I'm going to go ahead and notch it, and I'll come back and show you that. Okay, back at the regular install, I showed you the 1-inch paddle bit. what I'm going to do here is I got to notch these studs because the cables are now going to come across this way, and I'm going to put my outlet right here. So, and you can't really get in with a drill to try to drill that way, and because it would drill on an angle, and you can mess your stud up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the paddle bit and I'm going to drill a series of holes across that way, notching it out. And you only got to go in about maybe 3/4 to an inch, and then you'll put the straps over top of them, and that'll be pretty stiff. You could go ahead and you could probably sawzall these if you wanted to, but then you'd have to try to notch them out with a chisel, and then that puts stress on the studs as you're beating on them and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and try this and see how it works out. Okay, so we're back up here to the initial install. I'm going to go ahead and use a paddle bit up here, and I've opted to go with a 3/4 paddle bit instead of the 1 inch. I don't think I need to have that much of a hole up here. Now what I'm going to do is, it's hard to get your drill on an angle and go ahead and drill all through all these. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and notch the studs on the outside, then I'm going to put the nail plates on there. So I'm going to do a series of holes going across this way rather than try to drill through the stud, and then I can put my nail plate on right there. So I'll go ahead and try that. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've drilled a series of holes in there with my paddle bit, and I'm going to come back with my Sawzall, and I'm going to go ahead and notch it back this way and take the rest out probably with a chisel, and then that'll give me a little area there that I can go ahead and run my cables through. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've taken my paddle bit and I drilled a series of holes in those studs. So I'm going to come back with the Sawzall and I'm going to cut this way right along there, and I'm going to notch it all out, and that's the way I'll run my wires right through. Okay, now that that's notched out with a Sawzall, I'm going to come back with a chisel and I'm going to take it back in that way, and we'll clean that right out. Okay, so now that's nice and cleaned out, and we've got a nice little channel here for our wire to go right back to where we're going to put our outlet. Okay, so now here I've got my glow fish stick that came up from the basement. I've gone ahead and taped one of my wires to it. The hole down there is drilled on an angle because it's the only way I can get into that sill plate. So I'm going to fish one down and come back and fish another one. Go ahead and try this and pull it through. Alright, so I've gone and I bought 14-2 wire here. I've gone and I bought 14-2 wire. I'm going to go ahead and send that down through the fish stick also. A good tip is to go ahead and try to straighten out this 14-2 wire as best you can. It comes in a coil. That way it's easier to fish through the wall and it won't get jammed up. Okay, so I've got both of my cables on the fish stick and ready to go. I'm going to try one lower and one at the top. That way when it gets through to that bend at the bottom, hopefully I can get it through there a lot easier. Okay, so the wires have now pulled in and we'll go down into the basement. Alright, and here's the full fish stick. As it came through the hole, I pulled the wires right down, and there's where they're all taped up. Now I use painter tape. Some guys will use the what do you call it, the electrician's tape. I went ahead and used that because I think it would be a lot easier to come off, and it was sticky enough that it would hold on to it and it won't leave any residue on my HDMI cable or my electric cable. And I plan on going right across the rafter here with some ties, and then I'm going to go right into this light outlet right here. This circuit's not using a lot, so I can tie right into there. Okay, so we've got our wires run, and I've actually cut out for my box, my wall mounted box here. I've already went ahead and put my my straps on there, my nail plates, so nobody can drill into them in the future once I patch this back up. And this is what I'm going with. This is a drywall mounted box. What it has is these little tabs, and once they turn out, they lock in behind the drywall and make it a nice stiff install. I'm going to go with a 15 amp square receptacle outlet. This is the cover plate, and then this guy here is for my HDMI cable. What happens is the cable will pass through there and it'll keep it at a nice clean install. You won't see like the back of the wall or anything like that. That will all drop right in there. It'll actually drop in right here like this, and then this wall mount plate will go like that, and it'll be a nice clean install. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and install that, and then we'll wire it up. Okay, so this is the finished product now. The wall is patched and painted, and you shouldn't be able to see it. There's the outlet with the faceplate cover installed. And now I'm going to show with my plugs and all involved there. Okay, so that completes the install. The TV hung up above the fireplace, just back to normal again. This is what we have on the back side now. I put a ground fault interrupter in there in case we had any lightning or anything. I think it's 970 joules, and hopefully that'll help. It's grounded, and that should help with some protection. The cables are all wired up, and I got a WD streamer box in there. And that's it. If anybody's got any questions or any comments, feel free to leave them. Thanks for watching.